And so after centuries of God preparing a people that they could trust in, which is the entire story of the Old Testament, God sent a faithful angel to a young girl in the Middle East. Now the angel, his name is Gabriel, came to a girl about 14 or 15 years old whose name is Mary or Mara. And he spoke words to her and told her that God's plan was that she would be the mother of the Son of God. Now think about this. In the very beginning of the whole story, an angel of light, Lucifer, came to this woman without sin, Eve, and he spoke words to her that caused her to disobey and to not trust God. She chose disobedience, and she handed that disobedience on to the man who was with her, who in turn handed it on to the rest of humanity. In this story, you have another angel sent by God this time, who went to another woman without sin, Mary, and he spoke words to her that caused her to obey and caused her to trust. She in turn, her trust, her obedience, caused her to be able to conceive God's Son in her womb. And that man, that Son, by his obedience, handed on salvation for all of us. Now, Mary didn't have to choose God. She was completely free to say no, that she didn't want to live her life or give her life for the Lord. But she knew that she could trust him. After years of God proving that he was trustworthy, Mary was able to say essentially, "Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord, let it be done unto me according to your word." Essentially saying, God, I don't know what your plan is for me, but I know that I can trust you because I know that you love me. And the Holy Spirit came upon her and she conceived in her womb God's Son. A man who was born and lived just like anyone else, except he wasn't just like anyone else. He wasn't just a prophet. He wasn't just a holy man. Her son, Jesus, or Yeshua, was actually the Son of God. Not half God and half man, but fully God and fully man. Jesus is completely unique because we know this, that Jesus is God. When Jesus was about 30 years old, he began his public ministry. He set out to preach freedom for captives, giving of sight to the blind, healing of the sick. He drove out demons, he raised the dead. Jesus proved that he is God. He also proved something even more. Jesus revealed the depths to which God's love was willing to go, and people hated him for it. They resented him, and they ultimately chose to mock, humiliate, and torture him to death in the most horrifying way possible, by scourging and nailing him to a cross. His body was taken off the cross and laid in a tomb. 3 days later, Jesus rose from the dead, and he proved that he is who he says he is. He's the one who bears our shame, and he's the one who loves us so much he would do anything to prove that we can trust him. Why would he do this? Because our sin causes division between us and God. Jesus took upon himself the guilt of our sin so that we wouldn't have to pay the price. Our sin causes the division between God and us that we can't bridge. And because Jesus is both God and man, he can bridge the unbridgeable gap between God and us. Jesus' choice reveals this huge thing that we can trust the Father. Now, Jesus, who is the new Adam, entered into a new garden, the Garden of Gethsemane. And in that garden, he faced the exact same trial, the exact same temptation as Adam and Eve. Will you trust God as Father? Even Jesus prays in his agony. He says, Father, let this cup pass from me, not my will, but your will be done. And whereas when Adam and Eve faced that temptation, they didn't trust the Father, Jesus fully trusted the Father. Whereas Adam and Eve were disobedient, Jesus was obedient. In all of this, Jesus reveals that we can trust God. Even when we don't know what's going to happen, even when we're in the midst of pain, we can trust the Father. But Jesus reveals something